Welcome to Chattin Sht, the podcast that's technically about gut health, but who knows what pan the chat led up in.
I'm Alana.
And I'm Lisa.
We're here to bring a celeb mate to grill our gut health experts, and nothing is off limits.
From DJs to founders of the gut stuff, we've seen it all. Gut health is complicated and it's super personal, but that doesn't mean it has to be boring.
Gut health is serious shit. It's linked to everything from your mental health to your immune system and way beyond.
Everyone's banging on about gut health now, but don't worry, this is your one-stop shop for gut facts,
Real talk,
and enough laughs to make your belly work overtime.
Let's get into it.
We have genuinely two of our favourite people on the podcast today. Melvin Odoom is a TV and radio legend.
I thought you were going to say these two.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. This is you two are very much surplus to requirements. You've got an energy that is quite good for your gut, actually, I would say. Seriously, whether you're hosting your radio show or you're surviving I'm A Celeb, rice and beans diet,
Oh, God.
good for your gut.
Don't go there.
Melvin's all about good vibes, belly laughs, and keeping things moving in more ways than
I like
one.
that.
There you go. He'll be picking the brains of Dr Emily Leeming. So Emily, when all the experts we have on the show, they have so many letters after their name. Emily's got a PhD, a master's, and she's a registered dietitian. Is that them all? As if that wasn't enough to be getting on with. She also was a chef on super yachts,
wow.
like below deck in real life.
Seriously?
Yeah. And you still find time to be a research fellow at King's College here in London, and you wrote a best-selling book called Genius Gut, which is one of the best books on gut health I've ever read. We work with Emily a lot, and her gut health anecdotes and metaphors are genuinely the best in the business, so I hope we're going to hear some today. Right, Melvin's got a lot of questions for you because he's done his homework. But how did you do on the Activa Gut Health Tracker, Mel?
Okay, so
I have quite good gut health.
I got 44%. What is that? Is that bad?
That's like a C.
Really? Do you guys remember your one?
I actually can't remember. I think it was
80
good.
something.
I hope so.
I did well
Then
on
we did
exercise.
Oh, that's good.
87%.
All right, that's really
that's
good.
fantastic.
So let's focus on that.
Let's focus on that.
Positives.
What did you get for diet?
For diet, I got 35%.
The thing about you, Melv, is that you like what you like.
I like
Can't
sweet
you
things.
have like a diverse diet because you like the same thing?
Yes, and I'm African, so red meat is our friend.
Yeah. Does your mum still bring around
Yeah,
pre-cooked
jollof
meals?
rice and chicken, yeah.
Yeah.
in Tupperware.
Tupperware.
Which is actually covered in plastic, so that's probably bad.
So, yeah.
We'll
What
get
else?
into that later.
Stress. How stressed are you? You're not that
Stress.
stressed.
Well, I don't think I'm that stressed. But according to this, 17%. Is that good or bad?
That's all right.
Don't you want less stress, not more stress?
Yeah,
So
you want
17
less
is good.
stress. 17's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. one.
And then sleep. You're not doing a breakfast show
20%.
anymore, are you?
I'm not doing breakfast, but I do a lot of DJing, so that could be late. So my
right.
weekends are messed up, and then I do a lot of early mornings sometimes. And recently, I'm having trouble sleeping.
Okay.
It takes me
We can
ages to get to
we can
sleep.
get onto that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because I
Emily
eat
knows a lot.
quite late. I'm guessing.
Right, yeah.
I think
And how do you start the day? What do you have for breakfast?
I dance around naked first.
Sure. I wondered how
Good
long
for
this
your
would
gut
take
health.
to get.
Yeah, straight in. Not even 10 minutes into the conversation. Just straight. Yeah. Well, no, you know what? I don't really have an appetite in the morning.
Yeah.
So I forced myself to have a banana.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do a breakfast show and I met David Rodigan, who used to do breakfast before us years ago. And he said a banana's always great.
All right, just to start the day.
To start the day.
Does that
So
agree,
is that
Emily?
okay?
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think especially if you get so used to like not having breakfast, your body kind of almost starts forgetting, but also you kind of want that energy boost in the morning.
Yeah.
So even just, I used to say, if people are like struggling to feel hungry in the morning, do start with a banana or something small, like even just like a small yogurt and some fruit, and then like build up from there. And at least that's going to give you a bit of oomph,
Okay.
you know, before you get into
Well, that's
it.
exactly what I had today. So it was a banana and a yogurt with
Do you have a
granola.
coffee?
So I don't have caffeine at all because I don't want to rely on caffeine to keep me awake.
I've seen what energy the boys got. Imagine,
Well,
you
imagine me on caffeine would be
exactly.
no one would like me at all. So I tend to have like herbal teas because it's hot now. I just have water, but mint tea or lemon and ginger tea, I never have caffeine.
This is quite good.
Yeah, and I think for someone who struggles with your sleep, because we know that like having caffeine in the morning, like it is like it's the OG cognitive enhancer, right? But the thing is that caffeine, if you're having it after midday, can like hang around in your bloodstream for up to kind of 12 hours. That can be kind of when you're trying to go to sleep. So I think the fact that you're not doing that, although you're still having bad sleep, you know, is a good thing. Because it
Templates
could
for
be
Mel.
one of those
Okay.
things you want to rely on. But yeah,
All right. So why do you think I'm not sleeping then?
I think when you're doing
I'm sounding like you're my doctor. Like,
So what's worrying you today?
Why am I having so many problems in that?
Why don't you lie down now?
It's the perfect setting.
what's your wind down routine before bed? Like what's happening?
The thing is, as I'm about to say it, I probably know where I'm going wrong. So I tend to be on the phone, which I can't help because of your friends and family are on your phone. And then I love a nice film. Like I'll go on Netflix and
Scary, but scary ones.
not scary. No, I don't do scary. So just only like rom-coms because you know me. I'm a sensitive soul. So yeah, a film, my phone, and I sometimes will eat late because if I'm hungry, I feel like I can't sleep.
What's the science behind the late eating, Emily?
Yeah, so that could actually be something we see that if you're eating, especially within that hour before you go to sleep, that can maybe rise your like stress hormone levels, and could actually we see that could be something that kind of makes you sleep worse. But are you eating? You know, you're having dinner early in the day. Like, what is it that you're feeling hungry about?
It's not having. I'm not having a lot.
Yeah,
Just like a little snack.
Scooby snack, like what?
glass of milk.
Some sourdough bread.
Right, oh, that's good.
With a bit
Are you
of-
just saying this because you know that's good for your gut health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Kerrygold butter. yeah. And then I'll have like a tea. I'll have like mint tea is like my go-to.
Yeah, I think having like a warming cup of herbal tea is great because it's not just like it's the soothing action of having tea. I think if you're feeling hungry, you know, is it that you're not having enough earlier on and then that's become like a comfort thing, or there's something there that's like
Comfort for the lonely nights, Melvin. You want a little mint.
Well, I just feel like if I feel hungry, I feel like I can't sleep. Does anyone else have that, or is it just me?
It's
just me. I'm just a
my
big
1-year-old,
baby,
I think, has that.
Okay.
Emily's book is all about the gut-brain connection. So,
Right.
like, how your gut and brain are linked. And is there science that we do want, like, hunger comforts maybe before we go to sleep? Like, is there, like, a
So I think there's
cozy switch?
Yeah, I think that's why I think it's interesting because we've got different types of hunger. So I think when we talk about hunger, we're usually being like, it's just one thing. It's like switching on and off. But actually, we've got physical hunger, which is like, you know, when your stomach's rumbling and you've got that kind of empty feeling inside. But we also have something which is like emotional hunger, which is, you know, feeling that it's going to be comforting and maybe it's like become part of your routine that then, you know, so you've got almost this like taste hunger or wanting to have something with a routine thing. It sounds a bit more like you're actually physically hungry, in which case I would say, yes, please do eat something. So nothing worse than going to bed when you're, that's why I was like, oh, maybe you're not having as much.
I'll give you an
dinner or
example of
something.
when I will eat badly before bed. Is if I have a gig and then you've been running around, if we've got like something quite far away, I've been in the car all day long, and because I'm trying not to eat badly, I'll wait till I get home and I'll be like, I've got food left over from like the day before, and then I'll just warm something up. So that's a good example of me eating loads and then it just feels heavy, so I don't go to sleep straight away.
That's also like having to navigate the practicalities, isn't it, of work? It's like, okay, I'm not, you know, I'm going to wait until I get later.
So if you were me, would you just not eat and go to sleep?
I think I'd probably be like, can you take something, you know, in the car with you that will kind of before when you end, you know, the gig, and then you have something that's already pre-prepared that you feel is healthy.
Imagine Melvin with a wee sourdough in his bag after a
No, I
DJ
just
set.
don't want to, because for me, I love my food to be warm.
Yeah.
Like one of my things, my pet peeves is like I don't like sushi because I'm like, cook my food for me. Don't give me raw food. You just go into the ocean and put it on my plate and I'll give you £25 for it. So my thing is I want my food to be cooked. So like to go in my car, that's like so sad for me to be eating in my car, a little sandwich. Ricky's looking through the window, looking
Little
at
sandwich.
he's a
Little
salad.
daily spunk dunkers.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Is there like, I don't know, how often is this happening? Because I guess it's happening only occasionally.
Well,
and
we
it doesn't
gig
matter.
like generally like once a week.
Yeah.
Generally.
So-
But I'm just, because I just want to get to work and do my thing, then come home, then that's when
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of like decompress.
So it's more like you're out of a routine. You know,
Yeah.
you have a routine and then you're out of it, and then your body's like, hold on, I'm not sure where I'm at.
Yeah.
I
So we
also
know-
think
yeah.
that post-gig feeling, I used to get that, like, you feel a bit empty. I don't know if it's because you've had, like, an adrenaline rush.
What if
But when
it's-
you come off stage, you feel a bit like,
Well,
a
if
wee
you're
shell.
hosting something, I don't want to eat because I get too nervous.
Yeah.
So I don't have an appetite beforehand. So then I'm only hungry once the job's done. But then I know it's not a good thing for me to eat so late. So I'm trying to work out.
I think I
what's
would
the-
say like still eat something
Right,
because
okay.
you obviously haven't had a full meal, and that just is something that you're having to navigate around. And this is why I think with nutrition and health, like it can be so easy to be like, oh, you got to do X, Y, Z, but actually we've got to make it work for you, and that might be completely different for someone else. And it's just like, where are the nuances there that you can make? And if it means that you're having like, you know, a meal that's balanced with protein and, you know, complex carbohydrates, so like whole grains and chicken, then that's, you know, that's a good thing. Versus, as you say, like, you know, maybe you would have a less healthy option earlier.
Yeah, you're not having a Mars bar.
Yeah.
No. Well, it depends. Special occasions.
Friday nights, great.
Speaking of hunger, what was it like in the jungle? Just
Do you get hungry?
excruciating.
That was the hardest thing about it. Like, I don't
What, the
think
hunger was hardest.
when you get there, you're scared of everything, and the noises you hear are insane when you go to bed. Like, like what is that? I don't know what that is. And so, first few nights, you're just terrified, and then you get over that because you're so hungry. So you want to do the trials, and you know me, like I'm all kind of like food is my thing. That's what makes me happy. Like if I go
You're
to
like
a
a
restaurant,
toddler.
do you know what I mean? I'm a big baby basically, and so like you don't have that option, and all control's taken away from you. Everyone has no watches. You don't have phones. You can't see anything, so you've got no idea what time it is. And so it's that lack of control that got to me because I'm so used to being such a control freak in my life and stuff like that. And the food, because there's no seasoning. I'm coming from like Ghanaian family. Seasoning are everything. So to have rice and beans every single day, unless you win a trial or a challenge, I found that quite difficult. And so that's when I had the really tough days where I was bawling my eyes out.
What were you just grumpy and?
Well, you know what I'm like if I haven't eaten. I didn't get grumpy because you are aware that you're on a TV show and you're around people. I mean, I knew OT very well. And I'd met, like, obviously worked with Dean, and I met some of the other people in the jungle, like Danny and stuff like that. But like, you're aware that they don't know Moody Melv. But I said that in my VT. I was like, I get moody, and I think people don't believe it because I'm so like happy and positive on our show. But if I haven't eaten and I'm tired, you guys know Moody Melv's not a guy to be reckoned with. And so that people watching saw that. And then I thought, well, that's it. I flopped the show. But actually, people quite like seeing that side of me,
Real angry Mel.
Yeah, because everyone's got different sides to their personality.
Absolutely.
And so, like, when I had my down days, that's when actually it gave me a little bit more airtime because people were like, oh, this guy's got a personality. When I was just there doing my chores half the time because I just wanted it to be done as soon as possible. But I found it difficult, but it's the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Was it?
Yeah, because the experience is you're never going to get an experience like that again.
And what is, Emily, the links between gut health and hunger, or the gut? Is the gut brain axis at play
And
when it
mood
comes
as
to
well.
hunger?
Like if we don't eat, is that genuinely why we get?
There must be something.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, the hanger is a real thing, right? I think we all recognise that. It's like we all feel it. I definitely feel it. And it's, our brain is the most energy hungry organ that we have. It's guzzling away on the energy that we're kind of using in our body. And so any small kind of change in that, our brains really notice it. And that's where we start feeling really tired. We start feeling angry. All these things naturally start happening. So that's like a very like normal, natural reaction. And so, yeah, that's kind of our brain signaling us that we need to perhaps think about what we're doing. What's interesting with our gut microbiome is that there's kind of interesting signals that your gut microbes are effectively influencing your hunger and fullness hormones. So these are hormones that are made in your gut that kind of signal to your brain to say, hey, I'm feeling hungry. Or likewise, when you finished eating, to be like, actually, I think, I need to tell the brain now that we need to kind of stop this process, shut it down, because you're feeling full. And so therefore it's like, is there this like, we talked about physical hunger earlier and we talked about emotional hunger, but is there maybe this third type, which is like your microbiome driven hunger?
So it's actually Mel's microbes that are angry and not Mel.
Says
Maybe that's your
something
excuse.
even smaller than me is angry. Wow. Fair play. This is deep. You're going deep on me today.
But when we get hungry microbes, that's also a thing because they do kind of. So then in mice, we see that this is what's interesting about calling microbes like good or bad microbes is that it really depends on the situation they're in. And like us, if we're like feeling a bit grumpy and you're not being given enough food, they start acting out, like fair play. So, there's certain microbes that, even being, really, technically quote unquote kind of healthy ones that, if they're not getting the food source, the fiber, we see in mice that they start kind of chewing on what is this kind of like coating of your gut lining, because they use that then as a food source because they're not really getting the food they
Is it
need.
Akkermansia, the ones you're talking about? No.
So Akkermansia, when it can actually.
Solana's got shitloads of them.
Yeah, so if
Certain type of bacteria.
Mel's lost. He's gone.
Well, how do you know? How does she know you got it?
Because we had our gut tested and it can tell like which types of bacteria that we've got in there.
Test mine then. Yeah.
You need to poo. You need to poo now.
Oh no, don't do it today.
Yeah.
So they eat the gut lining, and that's good for them, or bad? No, that's bad for
So
us.
your gut lining is like your protective duvet that's kind of coating the kind of skin, you know, the barrier that is your gut, that is your body, basically. And that's just keeping your microbes a little bit kind of pushed and far off, and protecting that lining of cells lining your gut. So if that starts getting fed on and broken down, that means that those bacteria are coming closer to the lining of your gut and could potentially start kind of making that kind of just inflamed or uncomfortable. And this is what we see in mice. It's really interesting. We don't know this yet in humans, but this is what we kind of see, is that the signals of what's happening. And actually, if we think about it, most people in the UK are not eating enough fibre. 93% of us are not eating enough fibre.
Crazy.
That's like mammoth amount. So we could all benefit by just feeding our microbes, and hopefully
Then they're not going to eat your stomach
Yeah.
lining.
It's like Mel biting everyone's head off when he's moving, just getting closer and closer to the edge, like a wee Pac-Man.
I like that.
Yeah, well, that's your
Launching
excuse.
that game
It's not
very
me,
soon.
it's my microbes.
Melvin, before today,
Yeah.
how much did you know about that you had microbes
So
living inside you?
So I have kind of like looked at. So I had an issue last year, which I sent to you guys, where I had kombucha because I stopped drinking about a year ago. So when I went to gigs, I was like, I want something fun to drink because like Ricky's there having like gin and tonics, and I was there just having like a bottle of water. So I started saying, "Can I have kombucha on my riders?" But then I started getting these allergic reactions where I had like hives on my neck, on my arms. I started feeling itchy, and I couldn't work out what was going on. So I spoke to this amazing homeopath called Alex, and she was like, I think it's the kombucha. I didn't know. I thought initially it was like my washing powder or something else. And she was like, you've had too much kombucha and it's affecting your immune system. And I was like, this has been sold. Like everyone goes on about kombucha being really good for you and all this stuff. And when I sent it to my agent to tell you, she was like, the same thing happened to me. So a lot of people don't know about this. So I wanted to speak to you about it as well.
Oh, look, Emily's got a wee smirk on her sheet.
Because I feel like you've got like a
I love
mixed
this.
view.
Yeah, so kombucha is, you know, a fermented tea drink, right? And what happens is there's microbes, so bacteria and yeast in that are feeding on the sugar that gets added at the beginning, and then they kind of make certain kind of molecules that kind of, you know, good for our health that are in this tea. What they're also making is something called histamine. So this is something that for some people, if you're having a lot of fermented foods, and perhaps you have a certain enzyme that isn't able to kind of break down this histamine as much, that can then give you a kind of allergy-like symptoms. It's not actually your immune system, it's just a build-up of this histamine,
Right.
which then that build-up then can mean that you get kind of itchy skin or kind of hives or something can be happening. So it's a little bit like, you know, this enzyme is a bit like a cleaner coming in with a broom and like helping to like sweep away this histamine. And if you haven't got this effective, you know, the cleaner's not there and the broom's not happening, then that's just getting a build up of the histamine, and that's when there's potentially something happening.
So is it that I had too much kombucha, or that I'm okay to still have it, or am I completely immune? Like I shouldn't be drinking it at all?
So I think, I mean, obviously you'd want to like test this, and the way that you would test it would be like working with a kind of health professional to probably like exclude histamine containing foods in your diet. It's quite hard to like
Work it out.
diagnose.
What
But
else?
say-
What else would have histamine
Wine.
in it?
Tomato,
So
wine.
yeah, wine, cheese.
Cheese?
Yeah. but it's certain levels
I
of
love cheddar.
So it's not to say, so it's basically that if people have you know, histamine intolerance, they've got this enzyme is just like effectively they're not working as well. So it's just that you know, certain amounts. So say you have a lot of histamine, that might then be problematic. But it's not to say like we've got histamine in everything. Like all the food we eat's got histamine in it. It's just that having too much of it, there might be a certain tipping point for you that then cause that symptom.
So what's the most kombucha that a person should be
I was
having?
going to say, how much were you having, Mel?
So it was free at the gig. So
Free.
No, it was
Yeah,
free.
free.
So he's gone to town,
So
obviously.
yeah,
I had a
fine.
bottle that big.
Okay.
I think usually that would be, you know, obviously you want to have everything in balance, but it so depends. If someone had histamine intolerance and they were like sensitive, that probably could be something that could trigger it. So that's what I think most commonly, if people do say that they're having problems, that tends to point to potentially being histamine intolerance, but it could be like anything. That could be something going on.
One of the more recent episodes, Natalie was saying that she's seen a rise in histamine intolerances, like more and more so. Is there a reason for that? Like, is there something to do with our microbes, or is it just because more and more people are starting to understand it?
I think it's that more and more we're talking about it more. We're talking about gut health, and histamine intolerance is something that's very new to research, and we're only really just kind of starting to understand it a lot more. So I think maybe it's more that we're now kind of diagnosing people a lot better than necessarily. I mean, but it could be that, you know, there's something else going on, but it's hard to say.
You're a medical miracle, Melv.
Well,
You just...
that's what my mum says
You're
every
the
day.
forefront.
So if that's the case, if it's like about fermented foods, because sometimes I have like apple cider vinegar, is that okay for me to have anymore, or?
That would be a small amount, but if you're having apple cider vinegar, you're having it as a straight shot or a strop with mixing it with water.
With water?
Yeah, because that's something your dentist would not segue from your.
Oh.
If you're having it just as a straight shot.
Oh no, I don't have a straight
Yeah.
shot. I always mix
Yeah,
it with water.
that's just for anyone who's listening. Please don't do that, because that's
Don't
going to
do
break
that,
down
guys.
the enamel of
Oh,
your
right.
teeth.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Of your
Yeah.
teeth?
Yeah, because it's so kind of like.
What if you had it through a straw?
You know, maybe I'm straight into the gut.
Yeah.
So you always got to have it with water.
Yeah, you want to mix it with, you know, definitely dilute it, kind of add it to something, or just add it to your salad dressing. You know, that's a really great way of having apple cider
Is it?
vinegar.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Is there any science behind apple cider vinegar? And
So
gut health?
there's very small science of it helping with blood sugar levels in people with type 2 diabetes. I definitely think the hype is more than what the reality is.
I saw apple cider vinegar gummies the other day. Surely not.
No, I think it's, and also I think they're so expensive. So I kind of like, if you're going to spend, sorry to squish on
Money to
your
burn,
apple
yeah.
cider
Money to
vinegar.
burn,
If you
my
like
friend.
it, then, you know, continue. But, you know, if you are going to spend your money on something, I always like say, you know, can you just make eating healthier easier for you? Like whether that is, you know, getting those like pre-cooked pouches of grains that just mean that you can get something last minute, whether it's like, okay, berries are really expensive, can I actually just make sure I get berries in every day or have some in the freezer? So really just like thinking about, you know, where, like we talked about earlier, where your barriers are of what makes healthy eating difficult, and how can you make that bit easier for yourself.
Berries are expensive, eh? My son is addicted to raspberries and blueberries.
We started growing
Delicious,
strawberries in the garden
Delicious.
because we need to keep up with my
Maddie's
daughter's
strawberry
strawberry
addiction.
addiction.
You grow it in your garden?
Strawberries. Well, I say that we've not seen a strawberry yet, so we've actually got like, because seemingly the neighbour was like, "Oh, you'll need the birds will come and get them." So now we've got goalposts
Oh,
over the
wow.
strawberries, but they haven't seen any strawberries
When will
yet.
they arrive?
I mean, I would expect that they should have been here by now.
The stork's not bringing them, Melvin. Will they
I said it
arrive?
like at Sainsbury's or something.
Just put them out.
Yeah.
I know. I think I've killed in our garden. We've got like a fig tree, an apple tree, a pear tree. So it's like a little mini like orchard, and I think I've killed it all apart from
Oh,
the fig
wow.
tree.
I just planted a fig tree.
Nothing.
It's
Did you?
Tiny little thing, just growing. It's got little kind of
Oh,
hands coming
I
out
get
the
loads
leaves.
from mine, but it's really I'll dig mine up and give it to you because I think you'd probably care for it.
Mine's going to probably
more than
take
I
20
have.
years to grow, so.
Yeah. You can have
Patience.
mine. You can have mine. Melvin, I know you've got a question on. We've never had this before on the podcast. Microplastics. What's your concern?
So I did a documentary about 2 years ago about male fertility, which I know is very different, but they focused a lot on microplastics. And the scientists we spoke to said that we consume a credit card of plastic a week, which blew my mind.
What?
So that was in relation to the issues with male fertility. But I was like, is there any effects that it has on our gut health? Because if we're eating that much plastic, like, you know, and we don't even realize it, then how does that affect our gut?
Well, I'm going to put your mind a little bit to rest here, because we actually had some research that came out where they were, you know, scientists were a little bit like, hold on, that's a lot of plastic to be having a credit card a week. That's about 5 grams of plastic.
Delicious.
Yummy.
Yummy.
Sweet
So, you know, grating that
I'll take the
onto
credit
your,
card.
Yeah,
onto
yeah.
your pasta. And so what they actually did is they looked back at the data, and they realised actually that it's like vastly kind of overestimated. And actually it's about 4 micrograms of plastic a week, which is basically to get to a credit card's worth, that would be 23,000 years
Okay.
to get to a
You need
credit
to
card's
reshoot your
worth.
documentary.
Oh yeah, it's already out there on Channel 4, guys. Check it out.
I don't know for.
But this is what's, great about science, is that we all do this as scientists as well. Like, we see what the current evidence is. And then when a new study comes out that perhaps makes you think, and you look back at the body of evidence and you say, okay, actually, I'm now gonna think about it.
So with this new information, does that mean bottled water is an issue?
I still think microplastics are, this really, really key issue that we need to be thinking and talking about. And I think one of the reasons that we don't know that much yet about the science, but we do know some, and I'll go into that in a minute, is that we only really have had the technology to really be able to quantify, count how many microplastics and nanoplastics, which are even smaller. So microplastics are anything that's smaller than 5 millimeters. That's about the head of a matchstick. But then nanoplastics are so small that they can even slip into your cells because you can't see them. Mm-hmm. We're getting this kind of accumulation in our bodies. And what is that meaning? So what we do know at the moment is what we see in mice, which doesn't always translate to humans. But we can see that in the gut as well. Because you think about a lot of the microplastics that we get, and microplastics that we're drinking or eating.
And what
and
would
that's
be,
how it's going in
excuse
the
my
body.
ignorance, what would
See,
be a
I don't
microplastic?
really know what-
Is it like cooking with Tupperware? Plastic
It's
Tupperware? It's like, what's-
so bottled water,
okay.
even food, like the way in which our food is packaged. So like
Right.
if you go to a supermarket and they've put chopped fruit into a carton, apparently it's the little breakdown. And then like you said, microwaving stuff, and then it's in Tupperware. So that's why they recommend that you store food in glass. So there's loads of different
Baby
ways.
bottles as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, baby bottles.
Yeah. So there's so with mice, we can see that they're basically coming into the gut and they're, potentially damaging the lining of that gut, which is then, going to have potential knock-on effects and increasing inflammation, which is often an early kind of warning sign of future ill health and disease. And that there's something there, but we just don't know, and also the thing is microplastics are everywhere. So it's just something that we can't avoid them, but can we limit them? So I think, water is probably the easiest one. So even boiling water, if you're boiling water and you live in a hard water zone, then you can reduce the microplastics by 80%. If you're in soft water, it's 25%. Filtering water, trying to avoid using bottled water. Bottled water versus tap water has and I'm sure you did this in your documentary as well, phenomenal, much higher quantities of microplastics.
Tap water. Can we talk about tap water and gut health? You hear so many conflicting things, you shouldn't be having tap water and it should all be filtered. And then some people are like, no, it's absolutely fine, crack on.
I think really it's that we're not drinking enough water. So, and I think also, who's going to be drinking, bottled water, of days in, days out. I don't think there's that much, from the evidence that really signals that we shouldn't be drinking tap water. We need to be drinking more water. And I say that not just, it's for the health of our gut. We think about the home of our gut microbes, live in our gut. What makes a healthy gut? We really need that water. Especially that so many people have constipation. So anything from kind of 20 to 30% of people in the UK are constipated or are going to get constipation at some point.
Really? 1 in 3 people are constipated at any one time.
So yeah, 20 to 30%. And then
So one of us
someone
on
in
this
this room.
sofa.
Yeah. Someone on the sofa.
It's not me.
So if we're drinking more water, that is just going to help to lubricate and it adds a bit of moisture to the poo, make sure that it moves through smoothly and easily. And that also means that by food moving through at a decent pace, that new food is going to arrive for your microbes at the appropriate time. Versus constipation, what happens? It's very slow and it just means that your microbes are just waiting for dinner, tapping that one hangry.
Yeah. Melba, I don't actually think that you will fall foul to a lot of fads and stuff, but is there anything that you've heard that you're like, wow, that can't be true, that you'd because Emily's brain, you've got a bit of an insight.
Well, it was the
into
kombucha.
The kombucha.
The kombucha thing really got to me because I thought I was doing a good thing and ended up making myself really sick. And went and found the best brands. And I just don't think the way in which it's advertised kind of sells it. Well, I just don't think they give us enough information. There's loads of people out there drinking kombucha and then having allergic reactions. So that was the thing that I definitely.
You need to have a
was
gut
hooked
stuff
on.
fiber pop now.
Who?
We've got drinks.
We've got no drinks out. You can have one.
I'll
of them when
I'll
you're
have
at a
one of
gig.
those then.
You're like the coolest at the gig.
Oh, really?
So our drinks aren't the like kombucha. They're basically high in fiber.
Okay.
So in prebiotics.
What's it taste like?
Gorgeous.
Oh, gorgeous. All right, I'll have some of that.
Even Mother Mac likes them, so that's
Well, then that's the,
that's the
seal of
She had
approval.
a bit of bar. She was like, "Well, they don't taste like birdseed." I was like, "Okay, well, I think that's a compliment in there somewhere."
Yeah.
Thanks, Mum.
In there somewhere.
My other thing is protein shakes.
Oh, good one.
So, I found that having pumpkin protein was the best, or more natural proteins, because
Protein. I've never heard of that.
yeah,
That is
you can
the
have-
most middle class thing I've
It's
ever
like
heard.
a seed, like a seed.
Pumpkin
Any
seed.
seeded. There's another one as well. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, apparently I heard like the proteins that we have got so many chemicals in there and stuff like that. So stuff like pumpkin protein. There's another one which I'll remember in a little bit. Those are healthier ones. Have you heard anything about that? Which I kind of got hooked on for a little bit.
Yeah, so when we're talking about like muscle building, really like having anything that like the whey protein, which is kind of typical, is still actually, the best and just going to be just like very easily for your body to kind of access that protein. And I think there's a lot of kind of fear and confusion around those types of protein shakes because we are talking a lot about ultra processed food and it seems very processed, but actually it's like if it hasn't got all the added stuff to it, you haven't got all the extra sweeteners, then, you're just having the pure shake, then that's like for building muscles going to be great. But of course, you've got the plant versions like hemp, like, all these kind of pea proteins, which are plant protein powders, which are also great as well. You just want to make sure that you're getting that blend of different amino acids. Because there's certain different levels. So these are like the building blocks of protein. So kind of getting those together. When it comes to your gut microbiome, protein actually tends to be absorbed mostly kind of higher up in your small intestine. Your small intestine is actually not small. So it's really, really long.
It's longer than your large.
It's long and skinny. It's
Who
like
made
a
this
hosepipe.
up?
Yeah.
Who did the names?
Who did the names?
Yeah.
I know. It's they've just done on the diameter of, the width of the
girth.
tube, the girth,
Ew.
versus the lower large intestine, which is wide. And so most of that nutrients of the food that you eat, 90% of them get absorbed in the small intestine. So things like protein. So quite a lot of that protein doesn't actually reach the dining table of your gut microbiome. When you are having a really high protein diet and you're perhaps not getting enough fiber, and perhaps that's like a typical Western diet where, it's not just quite, not that many kind of healthy kind of fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds happening, then that kind of protein can make it to your gut microbes. And if there's not enough fiber, then your microbes can start kind of feeding on that protein a little bit more. And as a consequence, then make kind of low amounts of helpful molecules and potentially more harmful ones. So that's just something. But I wouldn't say with taking the protein powder per se that's going to be a problem. It's really about the picture of your entire diet.
Everything. And would you say protein powders, like the ones with like more chemicals and stuff like that, if you wanted to get hench, I'm asking for a friend, faster, would you say that's better than having like a chicken or something like that?
So I think it ultimately comes down to the quantity of protein that you want to be having. And I think for some people, like especially if you're a big bloke, because it's all about, your body size and how much protein you need because of that. That having a protein powder may just help you get that extra amount in terms of volume. But actually, most of us don't need to be having a protein shake. A palm-sized amount of chicken is 25 grams of protein. And you're also getting protein in from plants and whole grains too, that we just don't necessarily think of it that way. But yeah, for most people, we want to be aiming for around 1.2 grams to about 1.4 grams of protein per kilo weight of body weight per day. So if we think like if you're
Not that much, is it?
which is not that much. So like, yeah, if you're, maybe that's like if you're 80 kilos, maybe that's like 90-ish grams. I'm just doing off the top of my head. I'm just going to do some proper calculations. And if you're looking to build muscle, then maybe more like 1.6 grams per kilograms per day.
I feel like I got a bad score because of the red meat thing.
Why? What did you say? You eat a lot
Because
of red meat?
yeah, because I would have a steak And maybe lamb chops are delicious as well. Maybe a
With
sausage.
a mint sauce.
What do you have in your
Lamb
sauce?
chops.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
And then
Come
I've
on.
got this lovely recipe,
Right.
a bit of eggplant. Chop
Oh,
it
nice.
up. Yeah.
Why
Get
is it
some
eggplant? Are you American?
No, take the...
Eggplant aubergine.
Oh, is that how you say it?
Yeah, you're not. It's only American people that say
Oh,
eggplant. Mel.
apologies. Okay.
What I do is I take some eggplant.
Aubergine sounds too,
You've been
fruity.
watching too much rom-coms
I love
in
them. I love
America.
rom-com. So you take the eggplant and then you grill it, and then you get minced lamb, and then chop some carrots, a bit of mint in there. It's lovely.
Oh, nice.
All those
That
veggies.
is-
That sounds great.
But I'll have like 3 bits of red meat. I have
Okay.
assorted meats. I'm gonna have meat tonight.
What, just like a meat platter of different
Well,
things? Yeah.
I'm gonna go to a Turkish restaurant, so
Okay.
I could have mixed grill.
Yeah,
So is
nice.
that bad for me?
So red meat in itself has like many great nutrients in it.
Wonderful.
You know, it's got
Let's
iron
stop
and
there.
that's
Thank you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think the thing is, it's all about balance, and it's all about that bigger picture of what you're having. You know, is it with lots of fruits and vegetables and things like that? We do know that usually in the research, red meat and processed meat gets lumped together, which is kind of makes things a little bit confusing, because I wouldn't say like necessarily a steak is the same as like having lots of bacon. But you're meant to have, the recommendation is to have less than 70 grams a day. So that's about 3 rashers of bacon, 2 to 3 rashers of
That's not
bacon.
much,
So it's
is it?
not that much. But obviously, if you could have that across a week, right? You could have your steak. You know, maybe that's like one steak.
I'll have
or
a
half
thin,
steak.
like a fillet steak, a little thin one,
Yeah, a little thin one.
and I've
How
stopped with
often are you
pork.
having that?
Now I try and just maybe once a week at the most.
Right, that's not too
Yeah,
bad.
not too bad.
Is there science
Yeah.
behind red meat being
Bad
bad?
for you.
Yeah.
So it's to do with like heart health.
Okay.
Because of that saturated fat content, which saturated fat, it's more that it depends on the food that it's in. And so this is why this really interesting discussion about, you know, the US, we're talking about beef tallow versus like vegetable oil, and it's like beef tallow being, you know, this, I don't know if you've heard about this, all the
No.
it's like, you know, Trump and co are saying how, you know, instead of having, we're going to talk about seed oils now, plant oils, which are like shown consistently to kind of either be not inflammatory or to lower inflammation and to be heart healthy, versus what they're saying, which is the opposite, where they're, you know, basically saying they're poison and we should be having kind of, it's basically like beef lard. No, can you imagine that
Like old
instead?
school.
And that's like, you know, 50% of that beef tallow is saturated fat. And that's like, if you think it's like literally rendering
We
that
used to
fat
have that
off
in
meat.
our childhood. Did you ever have this being near Scotland? Stovies.
Oh, yeah.
Stovies are like potatoes, onions, lard,
Wow.
and corned beef.
And then Granny used to put, we used to have mince sandwiches. That was our lunch. Mince in a
That sounds
sandwich.
nice. That's like my kind of
Next time you have
sandwich.
someone round Mel, like,
That's what I'll have
having
before a gig.
A mince
A
sandwich.
mince
Yeah.
sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, like white bread, loads of butter, and then just mince in the middle of it.
That's lovely.
That's a working. That's so lovely.
Is there any, like, now that we're on the subject of meat, the hard thing about meat, I think, red meat, is it can't be replicated. Nothing tastes like it. Is there any science behind like how well it's cooked or not cooked, or no? Nobody's going to do a clinical trial on that, are they?
As in for your health,
Yeah.
about how you're cooking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want, obviously when we're eating it, it tastes delicious to have it lovely and caramelized and brown. But if you're going to be like very kind of into the minutiae of this, it's like, you know, can you just try and limit that a bit? So that might be just like putting, actually interestingly, like salting your steak before you put it on. They haven't done, you know, that might potentially just help to protect, you know, that kind of browning much that's happening. And also that's a chef trick of how to make, you know, your steak taste better.
Oh, no, we haven't even asked Emily any chef questions.
So,
But that's
would you have
all
yours
like-
medium rare, Mel? Would you have your steak medium
No,
rare?
well done.
Well done, really.
Medium to
I'm
well.
gonna put it down as a well done
crispy,
sort of
like
guy.
proper crispy.
Remember what I said earlier about cook my food?
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
No cold.
Warm,
yeah,
Can't believe.
not still mooing.
exactly.
But it's like if you're pairing that with, you know, some salads, some veggies, some whole grains, like that is a lot of that. And anything that might potentially, you know, you've got a lot of great things that are happening in red meat. If there's some kind of that slightly harmful edge that we're worried about, and that's happening consistently, like have that, those kind of powerful compounds that are in fruits and vegetables, they help to like act like, you know, firefighters, you know, they're helping. They've got so much kind of positive action going on. So that's why I'm like, we can never really look at these foods in isolation. It's all about what are you having, you know, on the big picture across the week, across the month, and like rather than zooming in on just like one particular food, like, you know, so it doesn't mean that red meat's or steaks off the table at all.
We
It's just
side
how you're
salad
having
tonight,
it.
Melv.
What's that?
We side salad tonight with your mixed grill.
Oh, so okay, yeah, okay, cool. All right, done. How much red meat do you eat a week?
I tend to actually only really eat red meat if I go out. That's just been a personal preference thing. I think probably since being a student, being so expensive, and it's become ingrained. So I'm like, if I go out and I go out to a restaurant, I absolutely love food as well, and I really want to eat everything, but I tend to not necessarily cook it that much at home, and that's just become
You need to jump on
a
and
habit
get to
thing
the
as
Turkish
well.
with Melv tonight. He's
Yeah.
paying.
Yeah, no, my friend Colin's paying.
Yeah. So have what you like. So usually at the end we go round and say what everyone's learned today. Alana?
The histamine thing I think is so interesting. I didn't realise that. And I actually have heard a few people now, it might not either, like they've taken a certain probiotic, for example, and it's happened in the kombucha thing. I think that's, so interesting. I didn't realise that.
I've learned that I've been saying the wrong figure in my documentary about microplastics, and we need
Take
to
it off
reshoot
the
the whole
telly.
thing immediately.
And you be paid double for
Yes.
coming back with the facts.
Exactly.
Mine was actually the Melv's microbes eating away at your gut lining. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, early science. I think we just need to confirm it in humans now.
It's
which
just
is
hot off the
interesting.
press. Hot off the press.
Well, we know a lot of it, and we see this consistently in mice, but it's really hard in humans to actually assess,
Get people hungry
what's
enough.
happening at that mucus lining. Because otherwise, unless you're like, taking a sample or shoving something up where the sun don't shine, it is quite difficult. So maybe
Well,
some
Mel, maybe
crash
you can
happen.
volunteer for medical research. That could be the next step.
What
When
day
you're angry,
do you do it?
Documentary on it.
what day-
Add it to
I'm
the
free on
documentary.
Fridays.
Let's bring you in.
Yeah,
Perfect.
deal. There you go.
Yeah.
Melv the mouse.
I feel like I absolutely, the thing that I always love about humming is that we talk about science like it is absolutely human and it's what everyone's doing. And I just love that we're drawing all these connections. I think you've had some amazing questions and I just love that. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, that means you
Yeah.
have got to give your body to medical science now,
Yes.
Mel. But everybody's happy with you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Did this get you excited? Join our 100 Days to Hack Your Gut Health programme. The link is in the bio.
Come and find us over on Instagram too, at The Gut Stuff. Pretty simple.
Thank you again to our guests and our sponsor Activia. Hit subscribe. Your gut will thank you for it.